Hi, everybody. I'm Melinda Gallant, and I want to welcome you to another Cape Conversations Fuzzy Slipper edition. This is a very special one, though. I get to talk to several people around the Cape about COVID-19 a year later, how they've coped, what they've done to keep their sanity, and how they feel going forward. So come along. Let's have another Cape Conversations. I am so excited to have with me the man of the hour, Mr. Health Department himself, Dave Mason. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I got one shot. I
Very
wanted
good.
I wanted you to do the shot, or I wanted Joanne to do the shot, actually. However, our governor deemed that wasn't a good idea. Why, we don't know. So I was disappointed about that, but at least I've got one, and I've scheduled for my next one. So that's all good.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it is. So Dave, did you ever think a year ago, this time period, you'd be where you are today?
Well, it's no, but at the same time, for years we have been, since 2009, actually, we've been prepping and training for this type of thing. You know, did anyone ever expect to have to use it? No, not at all. I think we expected, you know, if something came up like H1N1, it would be handled in a certain way,
Right,
and we wouldn't see it to the extent it is. So,
right.
no, would have never guessed where we are today.
So you've been doing regular PSAs regarding the virus. Do you think that's helped? I mean, getting that word out there?
I believe so. I mean, we've had a lot of positive feedback on it.
Mhm.
And the reason we started it too in the beginning, there was just so much misinformation and failed communication that we felt it necessary to, to be, one source. And in the beginning, we decided, because there was, so many mixed messages from the federal level, from CDC, we decided, and I decided we need to focus on what the Mass Department of Public Health is telling us, and that is the message we're going to bring forward, to move forward. And just in history, and reading about Roosevelt's fireside chats, during the wars, in order to bring people up on what was going on. And it was just a take back from that in order to provide that information, and not to do it in too much of a content, but enough to give them
Sure.
information that they're not overwhelmed by it either.
Don't you think that people are better off with the knowledge as opposed to not having the knowledge? The more information they get?
Yeah, and that's the more education, the better off we are. So they can process that information on their own also.
So
So the idea was to educate them.
So how about you personally, Dave? I mean, you've been doing all these fireside chats in the Sandwich Town Hall with your best buddy now, the chief of fire chief, JJ Burke. But how about you personally? I mean, you have to do all the same things we do. You have to wear a mask, right?
That is correct. Yep. We're still, still masking up, in the office here, because our office is open to the public. And so we're all masking up in the office. And when we're dealing with the public, when we're out and about, following all the protocols, I'm very conscious of that. My wife has a couple autoimmune diseases, so I'm fully aware of that, and how I, balance that. So it's all about protecting your space.
So what have you done personally to just kind of get through all this time? I know you've been so busy, and I'm sure your job keeps you so busy, but is there anything that, like you take walks, you with your wife, or you drive around, or you go down to the canal and have a cup of coffee? I mean, what are you doing to help relieve all that kind of stress of this?
Yeah, we do walk a lot. So, especially before the winter, we walked a lot. So out and about. Otherwise, a lot of time is just spent with trying to predict the direction things are going, or to get ahead of it. But other than that, just on a personal level, of a couple dogs that need to be walked every day anyway. So I get my forced march in with them. And Colleen and I will be seen out and about all the time, late afternoon, evening, early evening.
So
So
has it changed your perspective about life a little bit?
it does, you know, as far as there's certain things I miss. I was just saying this to my wife the other day, like I hate bowling, but I miss the fact that I don't go, or I can't go. So there's certain things that you just miss when you're not able to have it available to you.
Sure, sure. I miss hugging
So,
my grandkids, so that's what I
yeah.
miss, you know.
Yeah, well, very true. And a lot of people are experiencing that, even with my son who's up in Boston, you know, as far as his work and whatnot, it's, you know, he'll swing by, you know, but it'll be a sit outside, you know,
Yeah,
for a period
yeah,
of time, just based on what he's doing too.
sure,
So
sure.
to take precautions that way.
Well, I've heard a lot of several other people have told me that they're happy they live on Cape Cod and not somewhere else, because living on Cape Cod has made it more bearable. I guess because you feel kind of thankful for everything that's here.
Yeah, and you know, it's spaced out more. I mean, that's why you had so many people from the city moving down here.
Yeah,
You know, so what's available to you out here? You know, we've explored more conservation areas and hiking trails, just that we normally probably wouldn't. So we you know, we've taken advantage of that, and I think people are taking advantage of that too. And because of you know, how just being a little more spread out than people are in the city. So we're fortunate that way.
so where do we go from here, Dave?
Well, I think as far as, you know, as if you read the national level and the state level, with regards to vaccinations, you know, as far as availability, you know, I think we're going to have to keep doing what we're doing for a while, you know, and
Right,
minimum of a year at
right.
this point, you know. And before we see some, and I think even after that, you know, what, you know, when people refer to some level of normalcy, I'm not sure if we'll return to that. You know, there'll be just a different way of adapt that we've adapted to life, because I think this will tend to still circulate around, and something we'll just be dealing with occasionally instead of daily. So
Right.
it's, you know, so there'll be a need to adapt, and there'll be changes that are permanent.
Um, it was kind of interesting to me that the flu rate of regular flu has gone way down because everybody's
Yeah.
masking. I mean, at least in Massachusetts, we're masking. There are other places in the world that are not masking, I guess, states, but we are.
Well, you know, if you monitor other countries, you know, they're seeing the similar type thing. You know, the most, I always refer to Australia. They have the most information they've put out about that, where they've seen a tremendous decline in flu rates. You know, and I know that you can look at, well, if we're masking up and everything else, why is COVID still transferring, but flu isn't? You know,
Right.
so but it's just that it becomes one has a greater transmissivity than the other
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
So
So, if you've got any words of wisdom for everybody out there in Sandwich, Dave, how to
well,
hang
I know the biggest concern out there right now is vaccination and the availability. And you know, we've just been asking people to, you know, just to have some patience. We will get there. It'll come along, you know, and even after you're vaccinated, you're still going to have to do what we're doing now. You're still going to have to mask up. You're
right,
still going to have to follow the social distance protocols, you know. But if you do following the protocols and you're protecting your space, you're still going to be safe, you know. So just be smart about it. The vaccine will come in time. One thing we're suggesting to people too, because the governor's change, I don't think he's changed it again. It changes, you know, minute by minute, it seems. But you know, whoever a driver is of another person that meets the qualification, the driver can get vaccinated. And we're, you know, suggesting, hey, you know, team up in your community, find a neighbor that needs some help, you know, that is in that older group. See if you can help out. Maybe in helping out, you'll get vaccinated also.
cool.
So, you know, so it's something to think about.
Are you doing, is the town doing any vaccinations at all?
Well, right now, we, as of last week, we received a letter from Secretary Sutters, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, saying that local boards of health would no longer be receiving vaccines.
Okay.
So that meant new vaccines. So we have, the doses, the first doses that we had supplied, the state has committed to the second doses, and we will be reaching out to people for those second doses. So they will receive them, those who we have given the first dose to. And we're already in that process. We actually did that Monday morning, and we'll be doing some additional for congregated housing on Thursday. And we'll be following up with the 85-year-old plus next week. So so they will be receiving their vaccination, and we'll be busy following up on that. But for the moment, the only other active vaccination process right now is we were asked about our homebound population. And we've through the Council on Aging and the Meals on Wheels, we've identified who those people are. And we were asked to submit those numbers through the county health department to the state. And my understanding is there's a big push in order to get the vaccinations for that homebound population. So we will be doing those. The intent is we will be doing those locally with between the fire department and the public health nurse, Joanne Gake, going out to the houses. We have a process in place that we've tested, and we'll do that. So that will probably be the vaccinations for the moment. But at the same time, who knows down the road as vaccine loosens up and availability becomes, a little more available. We may be back in the game at that time. We're not sure. We may be in for cleanup or something for the smaller numbers that may be still existing. So we'll see.
Well, it would seem to me that I have a feeling we're going to need to be vaccinated either every year, every other year. It's going to be something. It's not like the polio vaccine. It's one and done. I think there's going to be more is what's going
As you look at the variants that are out there, people have been speaking to that, and the possibility of a boosted dose, they're learning as they go. So we'll see as we go. And it's just, I know everybody likes to know what the end game is, and none of us do. So we just have to go for the ride and have some patience and just kind of figure out how to deal with things that are around you. So find some pleasure in that.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's all about the science, and they're trying. What are you going to
Exactly.
do?
Yep.
They're trying.
And
now
right down
to the science. That's even better.
Yeah, I mean, the simple example is like with sports, because they're still learning as they go. We just completed the hockey has been playing all along, and there's so many protocols in place for kids hockey because they've experienced hockey since last June, and they've seen what occurs and how the virus transfers, and that right now, there's not as many protocols for like basketball. So there's some, but they're learning as they go, and to determine how best to handle this. So it's still a learning curve.
Right. Well, Dave, we feel like Sandwich is in good hands with you and Joanne Gake. There's no doubt about it. Oh, and JJ.
Well, thank you very much. Well, there's a big team behind the faces, as far as that meet regularly in the decision-making team. And just a shout out to Chip Riley, our emergency management director, and Brian Gallant, and the Bud Dunham and Heather and Peter Wack. All those decisions have been made as a COVID team, for the best, in the best interest of the town.
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, we thank you.
Well, thank you. So,
and the next time we talk, it'll be about something more pleasant.
That's good. That'd be nice. So, no, but I enjoy when you have me on here, because the more, as we talked about in the beginning, the more information we get out, the better off we are.
Right. Well, hopefully, if I talk to you in July, things will be better.
Looking forward to the sun and getting outdoors.
Yeah, me too. So, thanks so much, Dave.
Good. Thank you.
I am so thrilled to have with me a very, very innovative and creative person, Sarah Bassett. Sarah, how are you? How are you feeling, most of all?
I'm I'm great. I'm doing really, really well. Thank you. It's nice to see you too.
So how long did you have COVID, or you're still in the midst of it?
Oh, I'm done with it. But it was about 5 weeks. I really started feeling better in the 6th week.
Well, I mean, that's great, but boy, that's a long time though.
Yes, I had about 10 days that I felt really bad. And the beginning of COVID was very mild. I thought, oh, this isn't going to be anything. And then it's very gradual. It gradually gets worse, and it also gradually gets better. There's no waking up one day and you feel all better, you know.
Yeah.
The fatigue was what lasted the most. And I still don't have a great sense of smell yet. I did get my taste buds back, but
Yeah.
that's the only lasting
Wow.
thing. And I think it's finally getting better now.
Well, okay. So prior to getting COVID, you have your own business. You have your own advertising promotional business, correct?
Yes, still do.
Yeah, yeah, still do. Still do. You do my website, I know that much. So
Yes.
so you
Oh,
are
that's right. That's right.
so I mean, you've spent a year like everybody else masking up, not doing anything, and then you got it. But prior to that, what did you do to keep your sanity? I mean,
Mhm.
you were working. Tell me, how did you do it?
Well, I already had been working out of my home. That wasn't a big change. And, you know, in order to not go crazy, I tried to keep busy even with clients who were kind of not in business at the time or had to close. There just seems to always be work, I can always find it. And one of my clients, FOSTA, the Friends of the Sandwich Town Archives,
Yeah.
kind of kept me busy with a lot of their stuff, which is just so much fun. And
Yeah.
I've even gone into the archives before the library moved over to Sand Hill. No.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
The name of the building.
Yes.
Just going in and digging up. So that was fun. That kind of kept me busy. But before that, just the regular thing, cooking, taking walks, nature walks, but not a lot of different things. Oh, Netflix and Prime Video. Looking for movies. I've watched every British crime drama
Well,
there
now
is out there. You
BritBox,
ask me, and I've seen them all.
well, BritBox
BritBox.
has a new one with Rob Lowe in it. He's a British police officer, only he's from America, and he's a British.
Oh, I haven't
and of
seen
course,
that. I'm on BritBox.
I love Rob Lowe, and I have Acorn. So now I'm wondering, do I switch from Acorn to BritBox? I don't know. I love Rob Lowe.
I did.
Did you? Yeah, but see,
I
you're
did.
like
I switched from
Doc
Acorn to
Martin.
BritBox.
I know, but I like Doc Martin.
I adore Martin Clunes.
Oh, I do
I
too.
love Doc Martin. He can be whatever he wants, and I still love him. I just love the show.
Is Doc Martin on BritBox too? I know it's on Acorn.
No, I think he is only on Acorn.
See, that's how they get you.
But I've seen the whole series twice,
Well,
so
I have too.
I can live without it. And the great thing about all of those is you can rent it for a month and then you can cancel it.
That's true.
You don't have to do it every month.
That's true. That's true.
So I do that sometimes.
Yeah, well, that would be an economical way to do it for sure. Just do a month at a time. Maybe I can get all of Rob Lowe in 1 month. I'll have to see how many.
I didn't know your thing with Rob Lowe.
I have a thing about Rob Lowe. I have forever. My daughter thinks
he
there's
looks
something
great
wrong
for
with
his
me.
age too.
Oh my God, I know. He looks fabulous. He's so cute.
He hasn't aged much at all.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah,
which is depressing.
he's like Dick Clark.
Only Dick
No,
Clark
you
did
look
die.
great. I was thinking that when I watched your last video with
What?
Paula and
Oh, yeah.
with Paula and Denise, your last video with
Yeah.
Paula and Denise.
Yeah.
And I
that
said,
was
oh,
a fun
everybody
one.
looks great.
Yeah, well, we're still alive. I
It
think
was.
that's a good thing. We're still kicking.
I
Um,
know.
so
I haven't, you were asking me what have you gone out to restaurants? I don't even want to do that yet.
we have been only to one restaurant, the Daniel Webster Inn, and it was very safe, very safe.
Yeah.
And only
6
to the bar
tables.
area. That's all, you know.
Well, the fireplace is in there, so you want to, that sounds nice.
Yeah, they have plastic, they have plexiglass up between the booths, and they took out all the big tables. So, but we
Yes.
actually sat in the bar area, and there's, they're spaced, 10 feet apart, the tables, and all the chairs are, at least they're 2 together, and then there's 6 feet and then 2 together. So they've taken a lot of things out so they could,
Yes. Well,
comply.
Del Mar Bistro is one of my clients in Chatham, the Zartarian family.
Yeah,
You know them. They owned
Yeah.
Aqua Grill in the paddock. And John owns Del Mar, and he has done, oh, you just changed. You're big now. I mean, your picture frame is
I
just,
don't know why.
oh, that's weird. Okay,
Yeah.
hi.
Sorry, my big face.
You're much closer. No, it's fine. It just made me jump for a minute.
Oh.
Watching how they have handled COVID from the very beginning, he jumped on it and said, we've got to start doing takeout.
Yeah.
And, it flew. And Lambert's did too. Just
Yeah,
right away, we've
Lambert's.
got to start doing curbside delivery. And they've both done very, very well with it. Grocery stores have increased their business during COVID because
Well, of
less
course.
people are going out.
Right.
And the restaurants, of course, as you know, maybe 40, they're only doing 40%,
Right.
maybe, yeah, that's what last I heard.
Well, the pickle jar kitchen, which is normally closes at this time, they're probably going to open not until late March, but they closed right after Christmas because, as they said, I mean, that was the point where things were going up, and they had no idea what Baker was going to do. And they knew they could,
That's right.
they could take advantage
Something
of
was
it.
going to happen. Yeah.
Right. So,
You just shrank
they're
again.
fortunate. They're just,
You
So,
just shrank again.
oh, I did. Okay. I don't know why. Anyway, so tell me though, is there anything that you do? Is there a mantra you say? Have you done yoga? Have you done anything that just helps keep your mind moving and whatever? Have you read a lot? I know you said you walked a lot, lots of walks.
Reading online, yes, not books, but just information from, the ubiquitous political situation that we always seem to be in,
Yeah.
to everything else, learning about a lot of different things. And just, you know how it is on Facebook too. There'll be something will come into your news feed and it might be interesting. And then I go, oh, there's a YouTube video. And then, oh, look at all these other YouTube videos. Oh, look, this is about, what, you just learn. That's all I've been doing. I would say that is the reading I've done. And it has been quite a bit, but it usually is online.
Yeah.
It usually is. And nothing fictional or anything else.
Yeah.
I go to my BritBox for that.
There,
My fiction.
there you go.
Yeah. Catching up on, I know I feel so boring. I haven't started any hobbies. And I know some people, you'll see their posts on Facebook. Oh, I've taken up quilting or any number of interesting things. No, I haven't done it. Partly because I've still not busy, but I have been my time is still occupied with advertising,
Sure.
not really advertising, but my marketing and my websites and maintenance and jumping to turn a business into a takeout business.
Right.
Online, on their website, on their Facebook, everything else. And it really has I've kept busy. I've had a few people fall out that aren't doing anything. Sandwich Arts Alliance isn't doing big shows right now.
No, I know.
But other than that, I've kept busy. So it hasn't been quite, and like I said, I've worked out of my home, so I'm used to it. So where you'll see some people saying, I don't know what to do with myself all day, or, I can't watch TV anymore, or I'm losing my mind. I really, honestly, I hate to be boring, but that really didn't happen to me. More than anything, it's fear that happened to me. Fear
Sure.
of catching COVID, the constant cleaning of every single thing I touch, and every grocery item that came into the house, wiping it down with alcohol wipes. This is before COVID. And just taking every possible precaution and turning off the news, because in the beginning, we're all going to die. It just felt like
That's
we were
true.
all gonna,
Well, like,
everyone's gonna catch it and whatever. So, I mean, that's been the hardest part. Yes, I do miss going out and going to people's homes, but I did go to 2 gatherings with adults who are careful, and one of them had 10 to 12 people and the other one was less, and it was before the limitations, but I wouldn't do it again. I
yeah,
turned down the rest of my invitations because I was so uneasy. People
right.
take off their masks.
Now,
they eat across the table from each other.
Yeah.
You've got
So
to be
are you
careful.
going to get the vaccine? Can you get
Drinking.
right? Can you get the vaccine now that you've had it? You can
Yes,
still
I
get
am.
the vaccine. Yes. Oh, good.
I can. And yeah, my doctor's setting it up for me sometime soon, but I don't know because I asked, because they don't know if your antibodies, they think they last on an average of 3 months, but some
Right.
people don't have any antibodies after
Right.
they've had COVID,
Right.
and some, don't last 3 months.
Right.
So I was talking to a friend yesterday and saying, you know what? I have antibodies probably right now. I'm going to go out to eat somewhere. I'm going to be a little less scared to do things, at least
Right.
for a couple of months.
Well,
But,
I think they
I
say,
just heard today.
I think they say even after you get the vaccine, I've had 1 shot. I'm getting my second one in mid-March. I think they are saying you still have to mask, you still have to be careful because of the variants that are out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Well, you could also, can you be a carrier even though you
Yes.
are vaccinated?
yes.
That's what I thought. So we
Yeah.
still have to all practice. Well,
Yeah.
those of us who do. The biggest problem are the people who don't.
Right.
And the people who wear their mask under their nose. It drives me crazy.
And that's usually older men. Usually older
Yes.
men. Yes, it is.
And I'll see
So
children.
older men out
Yes,
there, put your mask up.
Yeah,
Pull your mask up.
put your snaz in your mask.
That's it. Oh, that's a good tagline. Put your snaz in your mask. So if you're going to give anybody words of wisdom, what would they be?
About
After this
COVID in
last year.
particular, or about
Well,
living with
about
COVID?
this last year, what you've gone
This
through
whole
and
last-
everything. Yeah.
I think a lot of people, and this isn't me, but it is me too. But a lot of people have said it's changed their lives in the way they think and their outlook on life.
Yeah.
I think it's made people appreciate things a lot more, like anything from sending your kids to school, getting your house back to yourself a little bit. But I think it's brought families together. Maybe it's driven a few families crazy, but
Yeah.
it's simplified our lives. We're not running around. We're not, it's been a lot more relaxing. You don't have to put makeup on every day. You don't have to,
Right.
whatever. But it's also caused everybody to be more creative in, how do I want to spend my time right now?
Right. Well, a word that's come up from others in this little program that I'm putting together is grateful and thankful. Do you feel that way?
Well, thank you for saying it. That's all I've been saying since I started feeling better, since I didn't have to go into the hospital. Just that I started feeling better, because it was scary for a few days. It was really scary when you can't catch your breath, and you just, you're just dead to the, all I did was sleep for at least 3 days straight. You just sleep, but absolutely full of gratitude that it wasn't worse and that I'm better and that I don't have, knock on wood, complications like a lot of people do in their 30s.
Sure.
You know, I'm in my early 60s. So there are people younger than I am who had much worse complications. So I'm grateful to be well and healthy and alive, I guess. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
you know how they
And
always
you
say
know,
it's
people
your
are
time.
getting help.
The other thing people always say,
Mhm.
it's your time. It's not your time yet, Sarah. You're too ornery. So it's not your time yet.
Yeah, no, I never felt that close to death, but I didn't want to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't
Yeah.
want to go. Who wants to go to the hospital at
Yeah,
all? You know,
nobody.
you just don't
No.
want to go. And that was my big, at that point, it was like, please let me stay well enough to stay home. So that's it. And yes, I'm grateful. And anyone who hasn't had COVID should also be very grateful.
Grateful.
You don't
Yes.
want it,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. That's true. Well, thank you
but I
so
got
much.
through it. So yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today and telling your little bit of story about having it and getting along around it and during this craziness that we've had. You look great, so I'm glad for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, thank you. And I'm sorry I didn't have more fun information like hobbies that I've taken up, like
No, that's okay.
rock climbing. Or
I don't have any new
All right.
hobbies either, so we're good.
Good.
I don't want a hobby.
Well, you have this though. This is a new show.
I know that's true, but I have to
This is
say,
work.
my first 50 years of my life, the whole 50 years, I was always doing something. I learned how to knit. I learned how to, I was a weaver for a while. I made all our own bread. Now when people say that stuff, I go, you lost your mind. No, been there, done that. No.
You were a weaver?
Yes.
You were a weaver.
I
You
had a
used the
12
weaving
harness loom.
machine.
I had a 12 harness loom. Yeah,
That's
I was
pretty
Earth.
cool.
I was Mother Earth. That was a long time ago.
That's a trivia that I know about you now.
There
a little
you
bit
go.
of trivia.
Yeah, the
All
Weaver.
right.
Thank you
Well, it's
so
great
much.
to see you.
Good to see you too. You
Thank
take
you.
care. Take good care of yourself.
All right.
All right.
I will. You too.
I am
Bye.
so excited to have with me today Mary Akunzo, Dr. Mary Akunzo, Dr. Mary, as I'll affectionately refer to her, who's a fabulous therapist and who works with families and people. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about, what does this all mean, Mary? Where are we in all this mess?
Okay, thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Melinda. I appreciate all the lovely things that you do. So it was interesting when it hit. I'll never forget the last day in my office. So I'm a neuropsychologist. So what I do is I test children and adults for neurodevelopmental disorders, generally like learning disabilities, autism spectrum, ADHD. I also see lots of people who have anxiety and depression. So I do these long and full assessments, and then I, do that testing. I write the reports and I give them recommendations. In addition to doing some therapy, I've done less therapy over the years. However, now that COVID has hit, I'm doing more therapy. So during that last visit, I remember thinking, here it was March 13th or March 12th, and it was just, the writing was on the wall, and I had a feeling it was all shutting down. And so, what happened over time was that sort of, at least for me as a professional, scurrying around, like trying to figure out how I can deliver my services to people remotely. And so here we are a year later, and I'm doing lots of Zooms, and I spend 8 hours sometimes doing Zooms with people. And it's been an interesting mix of what's transpired. So one thing that happened was I took on a lot of extra therapy because there was more anxiety and depression in people, and people were just seeking out familiar faces. So if I had tested them, they would seek me out because they knew me, and they would ask me if I could do the therapy as well. So then I sort of filled up like 10 slots of therapy where previously I'd been doing maybe 2. So my schedule got very full, and then I figured out how to do the testing. So the other big piece of this is when the students went remotely, all of a sudden the parents were looking at their learning styles and attentional abilities and all of these things and saying, uh-oh, something's wrong. Like, I never really saw this before, but my child is struggling. So kids struggling doing the remote learning has been a big part of what I've been seeing over the course of this year. So it's a little bit mixed. Some kids do great because they're, bright and motivated and want to sort of just get it over with, and they do their work. And then a lot of kids, particularly the people that I see, the focus isn't really there because, just sitting on a screen is different. Like the one-to-one for the testing seems to work better, but like sitting on a screen and seeing lots of faces and lots of things doesn't really work. And so I've actually seen some students who literally have gotten almost no education in the last like 6 months. And as a piece of this, their teachers don't, and like missing big gaps. And you know what? No fault of the teachers at all, because these teachers are amazing and the, principals are amazing. And I'm impressed by everything the schools have done. It's just a situation that, presented so many obstacles for everyone. So those are some of the things that I've seen over time. A lot of parents opted to homeschool, so not necessarily do the remote learning through the school, but do like their own curriculum. And that's worked out maybe a little bit better for some. The children that I see are generally on what we call IEPs, individual educational plans. So many of those students actually get to be in school either more often or even full time, because the state and the districts have recognized that they cannot access the remote learning. So that's been helpful for some of these kids.
Sure.
So it's just been like a myriad of needs that some of which have gotten met and some of which haven't. And again, no fault of the schools and no fault of the parents, because parents are trying really hard, so hard. I don't know how parents are doing it. Honestly, Melinda, I mean, think about it. Like if we had kids now who are school age, like I have kids who are out of my home, and adults, and had I been trying to work at home and monitor their schooling through Zoom, like it would have been really hard.
Very hard. I have a question. So
those are some of the things that I've seen.
So are you as a person yourself, I mean, obviously you're living through this as we all are. What have you done to keep yourself your head above water? I mean, I always say to myself, put a smile on your face and buck up, Melinda.
Okay.
Just buck up. That's, I said seriously, I ride around in my car with a strange grin on my face saying, okay, it could be worse, so buck up, let's move forward. Because I am not like anybody, I'm not unlike anybody else. Everything in my life stopped too. So how have you coped with it all?
Yeah. So initially, what happened was my daughter, who was a senior in college at the time, came home for spring break. And little did she know, she was home forever. I mean, she was not going back to school. Yeah. So part of the coping at that time became Andrea and I taking lots of long walks. Oh, nice. And, taking the dogs, taking walks. And I think getting grounded in the outside was helpful for me in the beginning, but then as I geared up and I got busier and busier, unfortunately, I've done less. I also coped with the sort of anxiety and fear by actually almost literally quarantining myself. I didn't really do things, obviously wearing masks all the time, but then I just simply chose to be fairly isolated. Until I got vaccinated, which was fairly recently, and I am fully vaccinated now. And so now I'm starting to go out, in the world. So another coping mechanism for me was always cooking, because I'm a huge cook and I'm Italian. And the negative side of that was I had no one to feed.
So you ate
But
it.
the positive side was I had a lot of time to cook.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so I ate it. So then, wait, so I got, this is like a two-part.
Okay.
So first I did a lot of cooking, then I got a Peloton.
Ah.
So backing up to the cooking. Yeah. So backing up to the cooking, what's really important to talk about is the fact that I started a Facebook page that was called What to Cook During a Pandemic, because I was in a Commerce Choice meeting one day and they were going through the financials and I was getting a little bored. And I was thinking about all the yummy things I had seen on Facebook lately and how many things I had made. So I actually, while I was in the meeting and my daughter's in the other room laughing, got on and was like, okay, I'm going to make a page. It'll be really fun. So the interesting thing is the culmination of that page is a cookbook. So we now have published a cookbook called What to Cook During a Pandemic. And it's Commerce Choice, like we did it together. It wasn't just my effort. In fact, it was many people's efforts, but especially Peggy Wallman, who's a really dear friend of mine. And then, Fiona Jensen, who's the head of Commerce Choice, helped, and Julia Bateman and myself and a few others. And we just worked on this cookbook, and that was another sort of diversion and another way to, it was a coping skill. So, and then the final coping skill, although there was a whole bunch, because I felt like I had to pull out all my tools in my toolkit, was I got a Peloton, and I've always been a biker, love to bike. Got the Peloton. It took like 2 months to come, but I've been on it almost ever since. I mean, I just love it. And it really keeps me very emotionally and mentally healthy as best, as I can right now.
That's great. That's wonderful.
So those are the ways that I've been mostly coping. And then my daughter, moved out. She actually started her own adult life up in Boston, working in a mental health hospital. And she moved out in September, but she started her job in June and commuted and then moved out in September. So I had her here for a while. And then otherwise, it was just me and my doggies in Zoom. But that's
what
okay.
more can you ask for? That's great.
I know. I'm really happy to have the dogs. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. There's a theme that has come
and then there's all the zoo. And
there's a theme that's come through everything, and that is thankfulness. Everybody says they're thankful they live on Cape Cod.
Gratitude.
Yeah, gratitude. Right.
So thankful. All my walks. I live around the corner from the boardwalk, and I love my walks to the boardwalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just beautiful. I mean,
we live in the same hood.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean. I know
it's
what
lovely.
You mean.
And also just being on the Cape, you could at any point hop in your car and take a drive to Wellfleet or Provincetown, or, those are pandemic safe things to do, drive, look around, take a walk, be in the dunes, feel your feet in the sand.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I'm very grateful. I've practiced a lot of gratitude. I'm in a mindfulness class right now. I'm trying to practice more meditation, more gratitude, everything to just sort of, keep me in a good place to allow me to help the patients and the clients that I help.
Sure.
So that's always important. I do a lot of self-care.
That's good. We all should.
Yeah.
We all should do more self-care, I think. Mary, I want to thank you for your time this morning.
Absolutely.
And we need to talk again.
You're welcome.
To you, we need
Thank
to
you.
talk. We need to talk again, though, soon.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
Sure. Okay.
So I am here right now with the director of operations of one of the most, oh my guys, iconic, loved business here in Sandwich. He also happens to be chairman of the Sandwich Chamber of Commerce, and that would be Brandon Barbia. I'll say your last name, Brandon.
Name is Brandon Babiars. You were close.
Babiar. Babiar. I know it's Brandon, but I couldn't remember Babiar. I can't get that out. Anyway, Brandon, tell me, this last year, we're coming on a year of having COVID in our lives. What's it done to you? How are you doing? What are you doing?
Well, I think I'm okay. You know, I will say that I feel like 20 years in the restaurant industry has trained me well for something like COVID-19. We are definitely forced in the industry to think on our feet, to move and shake, to be adaptable. You never know what's coming and going on a given day. So I feel like I had a little leg up on the competition, if you will, in that, you know, I never have the same day twice in a row, especially in my professional life. So yeah, on a personal level, yeah, it's been the same for everybody, I think. You know, you got to pivot, you got to turn, you got to move. I have a couple of young children, so we kind of got through the, you know, the sticker shock of what was happening with the schools closing down, you know, late last year, an extended summer break, if you will. But we've been fortunate to get the kids back in school, you know, for the 4 days a week. So I feel like all signs are trending in the upward direction, that we might be turning the corner on this.
So, did you go to school here in Sandwich, or did you come to Sandwich?
No, I was born and raised in Sandwich. I attended the Henry Wing School until the Forestdale School opened, and then graduated from Sandwich High School in 2000.
Wow. Oh, you're just a kid. My kids all graduated at the last one.
Everybody says that.
The last one in 95. So you are just a kid from Sandwich High.
Okay,
So,
yeah. I got a couple older siblings that were around that age.
yeah. So, Brandon, though, your business, Marshland Restaurants, you know, you've had to pivot with that. I know you closed the one at the gas station downtown. Now, you're planning to reopen it, I assume.
Yeah, so you know, the occupancy limits on that location specifically were just very, very difficult. You know, we only have 44 seats in that store. So even at a 20 or a 50% limit, you know, only allowing 22 guests in at a time was very hard. And, you know, we kept it going as long as we could. Once the governor cut it down to 25%, it effectively meant 11 guests in the restaurant at a time. And
Crazy.
you know, we've worked hard to keep our price point low. So that was the kind of the final nail in the coffin. Also, we know our business very well. 20 years later, we have a ton of data to go off of. And we know that January and February are tough months, even in good years. So for us, it was really about limiting losses and combining forces and resources. And, you know, we said in our little notice that we put out that, you know, we've been here standing strong for 20 years and we want to be here for another 20. So we thought that was the best path to take.
Do you have any idea when you may be reopening the one? This is just for me personally, because I really miss it.
Yeah, I think within the next couple of weeks, you'll see that we will probably reopen the store. The 40% occupancy is a little bit easier of a pill to swallow. But, you know, we're going to keep an eye on the weather. That has a huge impact this time of year. And, you know, kind of reshore the staff up. So I don't see it being more than a couple of weeks before we reopen there.
Well, that's good news. So personally, Brandon, what have you been doing? What do you do with your family? You know, you've got little kids. This is kind of scary. I mean, all the stuff you hear, whether you hear it on television or, I mean, kids see this stuff. They sense it from their parents. What are you doing to keep things positive and keeping moving?
Yeah, so as crazy as this is going to sound, we are lucky in a sense. Our oldest son is 10 years old. He's on the autism spectrum. He's a nonverbal child, so he doesn't tend to get too engaged in, you know, taking in what they say on the news or what he hears, you know, him and my mother talking about. Our younger child is 8 years old and by no fault of his own, it just has his ear to the ground. So with him, it's just been, constant reassurance. I think that's the best that we can do, is to let him know that this, hopefully won't last forever and we'll get back to normal. He has voiced, that it's hard. He goes to school, he wears a mask all day. They have to stay away from each other. So, we try to do as much outdoor stuff as we can without the mask to provide a little bit of normalcy. But we have definitely limited, as much as possible, having the discussions around him, try to keep him just being a kid,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. So you mentioned going outdoors and doing things. I think one thing people have said to me, they're thankful they live on Cape Cod and not in a big city.
Yes. Yes. We have so much green space here on Cape Cod, especially in Sandwich. It's easier to get out and be active. With the exception of the last couple of weeks, it's been a pretty mild winter as well. So we haven't been super limited on that. And looking outside today, it's a gorgeous day. So we'll make sure when he gets off the bus that he spends some time outside. And, the constant reassurance, I feel like, has been the most effective tool for us personally.
Well, I've talked to several other people and they've said that they thought for them, the one thing they felt was thankfulness. They had gratitude in their lives. Even with all the bad stuff happening, they felt gratitude that they were where they were and they were able to go out. They were able to at least Zoom with people. You have one store still open, so that's a good thing. So how do you feel the same way, or do you have a different word you might use?
Yeah, no, I think at a time like this, you really focus on, all of the good things. You have to. I use the term the silver lining all the time, and
There
you
you
just
go.
hunt for those silver linings every day, and they're always there. And I don't think thankful is a bad term either. We've been lucky, especially at Marshland, to be, a long-standing member of the community. We always try to take a community-first approach, and we're thankful for what we have. We're thankful that over the last couple of weeks, we've seen guests that we haven't seen since kind of the initial shutdown last year. I always thought that the biggest proponent for restaurants would be the consumer confidence. Once the consumer themselves are more confident in coming to the restaurants, that's where we'll see the uptick. And I think the vaccine has provided some of that confidence. I think the data showing that, the positive test rate is down, hospitalizations are down. I think all those things are trending in a direction. I do have a prediction that, we will see a surge at some point in business, just based on the fact that so many people have stayed away for so long.
Right.
I also think Cape Cod is in a very kind of unique and difficult position, based on the average age of those who live on Cape. Those are the more susceptible age bracket. And I think they're also the biggest age bracket for consumerism here on Cape.
Right.
So I think as time goes by, the weather warms up, we'll get back to where we need to be.
Well, they said that bookings are up for people coming to visit Cape Cod, that they're way up. So hopefully that will fare well for Marshland. It certainly should.
Yeah, and I think too, Cape Cod is a place where people in Massachusetts can get pretty much during a day trip, maybe a single or double overnight, as they're traveling less greater distances. I think Cape Cod really could be poised to be kind of the go-to place here in Massachusetts this summer. So fingers crossed.
Well, thank you so much, Brandon. You were terrific. And let's keep our fingers crossed that this kind of fades away. Everybody gets vaccinated and this kind of fades away, because I know I, for one, am ready to go back to the marshland here at downtown Sandwich.
Well, we're ready to have you, and we'll have service with a smile. Don't you worry, it won't be long.
I know. I know you will. You do so much for the community. You are a wonderful organization for sure. So thank you again. Good to see you, Brandon. I am really thrilled to have with me she's probably one of the nicest and most well thought of women in all of Sandwich. Rev Tina of the First Church, as we like to call it. I think it's a congregational church, but we always call it First Church here in Sandwich. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Delighted to be here.
Well, listen, you're in the midst of everything, and you hear a lot of, I mean, you're a minister, so you have to minister to people in hard times, and these have been hard times. How have you been holding up? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Our congregation certainly has had challenges during this pandemic. It's certainly made us have to change everything. It's taken us out of our usual way of doing everything we do. We haven't been in the building it's been almost exactly a year now.
Wow.
And it's changed everything, the way we function completely. And it's been really hard, especially on our senior population, because the church is their lifeline. And it's really made us think creatively and find new ways to reach out and be the church. And even though the church building doors have been closed, the church has still been open. And it's been interesting, to say the least.
Well, I'm sure it's been a challenge, but out of even bad things come good things. And I would think maybe that in some cases more of a connection than when you were in the church all the time. The outreach would be more.
Absolutely. That's one of the joys during this time is the ways we've connected with each other and with the wider community, because we've been forced to be outside and think out of the box, to use the cliche. But for instance, for Advent, we were outside for worship, and I reached out to the Glass Museum, and Katie over there, the executive director, and the board were so gracious, and they let us worship in their parking lot at night, which we don't usually hold Advent worship at night.
No.
But we were in the back of truck bed. People could see us. And we did it, of course, over Zoom and live on YouTube. And we had people drive in their cars, so we were COVID safe. And we worshiped under the stars. And who would have thought we were basically tailgating for Advent worship? And people came in. It was wonderful and creative and different. And we did the same thing for Christmas Eve, but over at the high school. And we wanted to still allow people to gather for these holy days. Right. And we were able to reach different people in a new and creative way and still have the holidays, but just differently.
Right, right. Which we have all been experiencing, for sure. Everything has been different, you know.
Right.
So do you find your congregation, is it dwindling? Is it growing because of this? Are you staying about the same as far as numbers? I would think, you know, you were mentioned senior citizen. It's all about change. Nobody likes change. And this has been a year of giant change, gigantic change. All of us, you know, you can't hug your grandkids. You can't see your friends. You know, if you're working in an office, you may be working out of your home. I teach improv over at Catuit Center for the Arts. I can't teach because improv is a hard thing to do online. You can do it, but it's really hard. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So I can understand those feelings. However, it would almost feel like I would need you. I need that goodness in my life to help me get through this. I don't know. Is that true, or what are you seeing?
Right. It's different. I don't know. It's hard to say whether the church community itself has grown or diminished or remained the same, because it's just different. Because we don't have the usual Sunday worship. But we have people involved in so many different things. The Wednesday soup lunch, that's the drive-through during January. We had so many more volunteers this year, and from the outside community from Sandwich, which was fantastic. People volunteering to make soup or the cookies or just come and serve with us. which was great, or donating different things. We've had people joining in different ministries from who weren't church members, and then others just joining us for worship. But then some of the regular church members maybe have dropped off from attending service, but have been involved in something else. So it's morphed in different ways. So it's hard to really tell where maybe are, because it's just so different. It's kind of like an amoeba. It's just taking different form than what we do.
So
Who knows how?
So how have you been coping? What do you do?
Oh my goodness, I have to practice good self-care, which sometimes is hard to do. But right, yeah. My wife keeps me in check. She makes sure I take time off and to exercise and to play with our nieces and nephews and to take time to just unwind. Yeah. And I wish the warmer weather was here so I could ride my motorcycle.
Ah,
That's something
good
that
for
helps.
you.
Yeah. Yes.
It'd be good to take a long trip down Cape, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, it's coming. It's going to be 50 on Sunday, they said. So after church.
Ooh. There we
Take
go.
a nice ride. Well, Lisa, that's what I always say.
awesome.
That's what they say. I'm not sure who they is, but they is saying
Right.
that it's going to be 50. Yes. So anyway, so is there anything in particular, any hints you would give folks if they're feeling kind of down after a year of all this craziness?
Say to focus on gratitude. There's always something that we can be thankful for. It's sometimes hard to find, but just thinking of the simple things that we do have, whether it's just the shelter over our heads or the warm place we have to sleep. What do we have control over in the moment? Those things can really help center ourselves and remind us to be present, and that can bring us some sense of joy in the moment, because it is so easy to get down during these times, but bringing it back to gratitude and what is in our control can really help shift our mindset.
That's great advice. Wonderful, wonderful advice. Well, thank you so much, Rev Tina.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You know, we're doing this whole thing about COVID a year later, but the other people that I have spoken with have all said in the end, it's about gratitude and being grateful. That's what helps see them through. So I think that might be the word of the day is gratitude.
It's a good one.
For sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take care.
I am joined now with Beth O'Rourke. Oh my gosh, she's so great, so interesting. And she has really devised a great way to survive the pandemic. Beth, how are you?
I'm great, Melinda. It's nice to see you. Thanks
You
for
know-
inviting me to your show.
Well, I will say this. It is nice to see anybody, although I would love to be there in person
Mhm.
and give you a big squeeze.
Oh, once we get out of this, you are more than welcome.
I'm
Come
serious.
on over. Yeah.
It has been kind of crazy. So that said, tell me a little bit about here we are, it's a year later. Can you believe it? You know, it is just amazing to me.
It really is, and right before you called, I was looking at my calendar, and the last time I did anything was March 6th last year. March 7th, I went to the movies with my best friend, and that's been pretty much it, So
Wow.
Who knew it was going to last this long? Yeah, incredible.
Well, I don't think any of us knew it would last this long.
No.
Fortunately, I think we're on the right track now. So what are some of the little things that you did to save your sanity?
Like in looking at the year, I have to say it's been a process for sure. I mean, at first I really got into this like, okay, I'm going to be homesteading. It's like I'm a pioneer woman, and how am I going to? And I got sort of excited about it, and so I converted my downstairs linen closet into a pantry. I've always wanted a pantry. I
Yeah.
buy all my food now from the wholesaler who delivers, so I have bulk, which I love. So, I'm eating differently, I'm spending differently. Yeah, so that started early on, like the end of March. And now flash, forward 11 months, I've read more books in a year than I ever have. We have a great library in Truro. I can't say enough about them. And I just download everything on my Kindle. So I'm reading like I did as a kid, just getting lost in novels. And that's been good. But as I said to you before, Melissa, my life, Truro is a blessing in a lot of ways. My life hasn't changed much. It's quiet out here. Even in the summer, I know where to go and not see any footsteps in the sand. And like, what a gift that's been. So,
Sure.
I go out every day. I take long walks on the beach, just like I always have. Yeah, I think my challenge now is like, how am I going to come out of this? I've sort of mastered, I've mastered the lifestyle of kind
Right.
of a cave dweller.
Right.
So now what am I going to do? Am I going to want to have dinner parties? Who knows?
Well,
It'll be
it's funny.
interesting.
It's funny because I said to somebody, I feel like I'm becoming agoraphobic,
Yeah.
which is not a syndrome anybody would ever want in 100 million years. Trust
No.
me. But
Yeah.
our house sits down from the street. So we park above and we walk down steps to a courtyard, then onto a deck into our house. And then the
Yeah.
house goes back into the marsh. I mean, the deck, you go around the back of the house, you overlook the marsh. For weeks, I didn't come out of the house
Yeah.
in late fall. I was just in that area.
Right.
And I thought, I literally didn't even drive my car, which I was in real estate. So I had a leased car. And now I'm wondering, should I buy a car? Because I'm not putting any mileage on it at all,
Yeah.
It is a funny thing. You kind of hunker down.
Yeah, and I've thought a lot all through this, like, what is going to be the long-term impact of this on me? I mean, I'm an introvert to begin with, and so like I was wired for this, but then how do we come back out of it? It'll be interesting to see. I think we're all going to be forever imprinted by this. How could we not be?
Well, I think,
But I have a lot of friends out here. This is a wildly creative place, lots of
Yeah.
kooky people. And the friends I talk to, the artist types, none of us are bored. We're all doing our projects. And it's not
Sure.
like, we have cabin fever. So that's a gift too, but still it's challenging, the social thing. I have one friend, I live alone. My pod is one other person, my best friend. And, it's like, oh gosh, we cling to each other. It's like,
Sure.
she's my person through this. So
Yeah. Well, it's I live in Sandwich, which is
Yeah.
at the other end of the Cape. It's definitely more active, although it's been certainly less active in the last year than I have ever seen. Less traffic, less everything. And I'm certainly finding that I'm a theater person. So, and I direct and I teach improv classes, and that all stopped.
Yeah.
Just stopped. So, and that part has been hard for me. And so I look to people like you, when you say you were reading and doing all of that, that's so much better than binging on Netflix. Although Bridgerton was pretty good, but I'm serious though. And I'm not a voracious reader because I read scripts.
Yeah.
And so when you read scripts, you don't necessarily read books all the time. I mean, maybe there are those folks who do. I can't do both. So my brain isn't wired to do that. So it's interesting to hear. And how are your goats? You have goats too?
I have goats, and I worry a little bit in the extreme cold, but they're incredibly hardy, and they're happy and they make me happy. I just can't imagine living without them. I have a little apartment on my property and I have a renter in there for 3 months, and they're at his kitchen door every morning and he's falling in love with them. And they're really delightful. Yeah. So they keep me.
What kind of goats are they? I must ask.
They're little pygmies.
Oh, so they're tiny.
Yes. Because I don't have a lot of property. I get everything in miniature, So they're built to scale. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. So they've been company too, as well as your best friend.
Yeah. Yeah, and my dog, I have a big dog, you know, I'm
Yeah,
never without a flock, so that
that's
keeps
wonderful.
me, yeah, yeah.
So if you were going to say to somebody, what's the one thing that that has held you constant through all of this, what would that be?
Wow, that's a great question. I actually think it's gratitude. I mean, I have really connected in a much deeper way with looking at my life and really appreciating all that I have. You know, when
Mhm.
I hear these horrific stories of, you know, people waiting on lines for food and just,
Ah,
you know, the endless nightmares, I am so grateful that I chose this place to call my home. You know, we have great services out here. I'm in a community of people that really care about other people. I mean, I think the great state of Massachusetts is a great state.
yeah,
I would never leave it. You know, I mean,
I
we're
know.
well run, you know, and so I'm really grateful, you know, even though
That's
this has
great.
been a pretty dark time,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
it
know.
has been, but I think you're right. And there's light at the end of this tunnel now. So that's even better, I think.
I hope so. I hope you're right. I mean, I
Yeah,
think it's going to last longer than I certainly thought, and probably any of us thought.
right.
Um, and I think we're gonna have to live differently. I mean, I don't mind wearing a mask. I was shocked, you know, everybody wears masks out here, and I had to go to a store that will remain unmentioned, of course, for a part I needed for
Yeah.
something in my house. And I went into the store, and all of the employees were unmasked, and I was
You're
just,
kidding me.
I mean, I wanted to cry, you
Yeah.
know.
I would have
And I,
said something. I couldn't keep my
well,
mouth shut.
interesting. I was the only customer and I was afraid and I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do. And a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff sort of feels like edgy and political these days. I don't know
Which
how
is
they political.
crazy.
Yeah. But as soon as I got out of there, I sent him an email, the cowardly way out, and I contacted the health agent in Dennis, and
Good.
they went over there right away.
Good.
And but it was shocking to me. And again, another reminder, I don't live with that here.
Yeah.
Everybody wears masks out here. So
Yeah. Yep.
another thing to be grateful for.
Yeah. It is for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Beth, I'm going to come back and talk to you sometime later. I want to hear all about what you're doing and
Yes,
all
and you're
your
going to be in my
creativity.
driveway someday.
I'm going to be in your driveway so I can meet those goats. My
Fantastic.
favorite animal next to horses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Excellent.
Talk to you soon, Melinda. Thanks for calling.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. The word of the day is gratitude. That's right. All of my guests today talking about COVID-19 a year later, they used the term thankfulness or they said gratitude. And I have gratitude as well that I can bring this to you and so easily in my fuzzy slippers. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time on another Cape Conversation.